Welcome back. It's All Matters Back to School. This is 2nd January and schools are getting ready to reopen. Agatha Nagalia, the teacher at Alliance Girls High School, is here with me this morning. Agatha Nagila, and we were just discussing the whole issue of school fees, publishing, etc. And right now we want to step into 3 other important aspects, and that's one of the travel ban. How the travel ban is actually affecting this whole travel or this movement from back to school. Agatha, you were just telling me that a lot of people may not have thought about it from that point of view. The travel ban that NTSA has put is going to affect quite a number of students as schools are reopening.
Yes. It is going to affect students. Consider that many students, now we have national schools all over the country.
Yes.
And you want to factor in a student who travels from Turkana and maybe is coming to Nairobi, to a national school in Nairobi. And the transport system within those regions is that they travel in the night. And so that means they'll need more days to get to school. And so already we are getting calls from parents.
Oh, wow.
Yes, who have to say that the children are going to arrive late because of that. So clearly it's going to slow down the start of the school term. I really wish we had a special transport system that just handles students. So if we had, say, specific buses from specific areas that just take care of students, you know, that would be safe and easy for them to travel.
True.
But otherwise now students have to travel and hassle for the transport with the rest of the public that are coming from their holidays.
Right. So
Yes.
you're already seeing a lot of worried teachers, parents
calling in, yes.
about that travel ban.
Yes, yes,
Oh, wow.
yes, yeah.
Okay. Very quickly, the issue of health insurance. I had mentioned it earlier, a win by the government, on the government side, that now every student will now be allocated an NHIF. This is quite big because it's not every student who can afford medical insurance given the background that they come from. So I may be very good with my academics and I get to go to Alliance Girls High School.
Yes.
But my parents are not that fair off for me to get medical cover.
Yes.
The government took a little bit longer on this. Insurance, health, it's one of the top key priorities. And for our students, it should be right there at the top.
Yeah, I think that is a good thing. It's a plus, because what happens is in schools, sometimes you find students who get sick. And what happens is that you have to send them to the nearest hospital. And what happens is that whatever treatment that they get then is passed on to their school fees. And so that is an extra cost cut from the parents. And I think parents should really be happy about that.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're breathing a sigh of relief.
Yes. Because it usually is put to their school fees.
Wow.
Yes.
All right, very quickly, we've already touched on school fees, or rather you've tapped on it right now.
Yes.
Also a big win as school subsidies, or rather the fee subsidies sort of goes down, especially for those who are in the public sector. But for schools within our national and boarding schools, for them, they are still going to be a bit more affected by it.
Yes.
As a parent and as a teacher, what were your thoughts when you heard about this?
The parent is always excited, of course, anytime they talk about school fees costs being cut down, okay? But from a teacher's perspective, it becomes challenging because there's certain standards that you have to maintain within certain schools. And if you did that, then it does affect, for instance, the performance of the learners. And so what happens is there's a way that there's a system whereby parents will agree that if these are the standards we want to maintain for our kids, okay, at the end of the day, the ball falls with the teacher, with the parents. It's them to decide what they want their children to eat. Do you want to eat vary every day? We are okay with that as teachers. If they tell us you want your children to take porridge every day, but there are those extra costs, or do you want to have lights on up to this particular hour? We save on electricity and switch off the lights. By 7 o'clock, we don't have prep. Or do you want us to use a generator at a certain point of time? Or so there are all those costs that usually come in, and those costs, it's the parents who actually initiate them. It's never the schools. Many times you'll hear that schools are charging high fees. It's never the principals or the teachers who sit down and agree. It's always the parents who sit with the teachers. Actually, the PA and the BOM must agree to that.
All right, Agatha, let us welcome Mr. Omboko Milemba. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
For taking your time to come and speak to KTN News. You just found us in the middle of this conversation. It's back to school for a lot of the very many students here in Kenya. And we were just touching a little bit on the issue of transport and how the travel ban will affect a lot of the students who are traveling, especially from far distances and are coming into Nairobi. What were your thoughts on this?
Oh, thank you very much. Transport and now the students. You know, the ban was abrupt, and the ban was erratic. It wasn't a decision courtesy of the NTSA or the police after consulting.
Right.
I think the police were overwhelmed with what was happening on the roads. And having themselves completely overwhelmed, they thought the best thing is to do a blackout. A blackout as in stop transport. But that cannot work in any system. If they were very aware that this is a policy they could run, then they should have even given the bus owners and the travelers, including the students, a notice of 1 week that we are going to ban night travels after 1 week.
To allow the students
or
to
even 7 days to travel. But that was an erratic decision. NTSA is no longer in charge. I think that's one body that needs to be discussed even at parliamentary level because it's not doing work. We are having more accidents than before, and it's completely going to affect the students. And schools have rules. When they say we are opening on Wednesday, by 4, you have to be there by Wednesday by 4. Sometimes when you don't get there by 4, I'm a teacher, they send you back at home. So it's going to be real anarchy in the education sector because of that ban. What I think is that the police force and NTSA should have seen how best they can take care of the road carnage as it is, because I know it's extreme, it's bad, I'm not supporting it. But that ban was unnecessary. Right.
Mheshimiwa, I would love to hear your thoughts on the uncertainty of the new curriculum education, because what is now new on these matters is that the fact that the 2633 system could be postponed.
The truth is that it should be postponed. I'm a teacher, and several teachers are outside there listening to me. They don't know what to do starting today and starting tomorrow. There was no proper preparation for this particular system.
Right.
And the teachers, as they go to school, they even don't know what to carry. They don't know which textbook is to be used, and I hear even the textbooks are not available. So I am not against the system. We have had 844 for a while. Systems are changed because of timelines, and maybe the sector has changed. The demands in the labor market has changed. Technology has changed, as we'll see with IT. So it's indeed important that we change the system. But the way it has been done hurriedly, without consultation, without involvement, without training the manpower. The sole individual who is in charge of how curriculum should be run out is the teacher. So when you assume the teacher and you imagine you are going to roll out a curriculum, you are just losing it. And if it's rolled out tomorrow, then I'm assuring you we are going to waste another 8 months teachers learning what to do. So it's not necessary to roll it out when you know very well we shall be simply learning on the ropes, and we shall take even 1 year.
Mr. Milemba, now you will be part of that meeting that will happen today with Matiang'i later on. Is that the same thing that you'll be telling him?
Exactly. I am a teacher, leader, and this is how exactly I talk, and I'll be telling him that, that, hey, you, the curriculum is not dead. It's time, yes, to change. But take time, involve the stakeholders, train the teachers. Let's take the textbooks. And that takes me to the textbook policy also. Why would you want one person to print books? That would be extreme corruption, because we are giving one person in the name of Omboko Milemba, one company, to produce books. Where we had moved to is a level whereby they are the teachers themselves writing the books because they understand the teaching and what they are teaching. So a book produced by a teacher in history and government, I taught history and government, and I was producing a book. That book would be very, very good for that particular curriculum than telling one producer to produce the books. And you want to make everybody run out of business because you want only one company to produce the books.
Right.
Are we going back to nationalization? We were here in 1965 when Mboya wrote the sessional paper, number 60, sessional paper. And he was talking about a combination of African socialism and capitalism. And basically, we moved along the capitalistic direction. So how would you now block out other players from the field that only one individual has to produce books for the curriculum? It's completely wrong.
Agatha, you'd like to add on top of that?
Yes, what I would like to say is, what I believe is that these 6 textbooks are going to be given to schools, but it doesn't limit the schools from making extra choices. Yes, so that I remember in the past, there was a time when I think books came from KIE.
Very well, very well, but you should remember, I hope you are a teacher, that even in the 844, there was a lead producer. I think it was KLB.
Yes, and those books
So you don't ban other books because KLB is producing. KLB produced, and we followed it. Throughout, I thought I would refer to KLB, but again, I would find other books more important than KLB.
Exactly.
And they would have more content. But you stick on KLB because KLB would tend to stick to the syllabus.
One would argue that the issue of piracy, this will help tame piracy of our books.
Yeah?
One would argue that this would tame piracy.
That question I've not gotten very well.
One would argue that the whole printing, we have that one, only one company.
Cut off the pirates.
Yes, that this will cut out piracy.
Plagiarism.
Yes.
No. How would you say if somebody plagiarizes your work, that is a business of courts. It's a business that has a system in which you can approach it. You cannot stand here and say, Omboko Milemba, you are writing a book, and because Madame here should not pirate it, then she has no chance of writing. After all, the gospel was wrote by Mark, Matthew, Luke. All those guys wrote the gospel as they saw it. However, when we went to school during the old system, they preferred to use Luke's gospel.
Mr. Milemba, the process of this new curriculum has been happening for quite a few years now. Matiang'i also set up an entire committee of 36 individuals. Will we ever be ready? Or what will happen is even if we never roll it out, we'll just never be ready?
It's not a matter of also scuttling. We don't talk like this because we want to scuttle the process. But when we are not ready, we are not ready. You know, we went through the political process last year.
That slowed
and we
things
completely deviated from everything else and just followed politics. At one time, you remember exams were being used as political tools of whether to have elections or not to have elections. That was very dangerous. You know, we were sucking the kids into the political processes. So I'm simply saying, because of last year's events and other happenings, let's be on the same level and begin. Otherwise, I'm not a scuttler. It's not my business to scuttle.
Agatha, the books...
I'll tell you that the books, when the books went for evaluation, the results were expected earlier, but they were slowed down. Because remember, it's the same teachers who evaluate those books. It's the same teachers who mark exams.
Yeah.
It's the same teachers who need to be trained. Okay, so that clearly slowed down the whole process. And I think, like he's saying, it's the election. I mean, with everything that has gone on. So yes, things were in the pipeline, but they slowed down. And clearly, as I talk, like he says, the books are not ready. So publishers are asking for about 2 weeks extra to have the books. So that means that when kids go to school tomorrow and today, there'll be no material as it is.
And that's even for standard 1 to standard 2,
1 to
standard
3. Yes.
But
the rest are not affected by that.
The rest are not affected.
Yes.
But the students are also going to be the biggest people who are going to be affected. Publishers?
Publishers
would have to request for more time.
Publishers have requested for more time, of course, and they asked for 2 weeks. Okay, and actually publishers work together with KICD. So clearly, again, when you slow it down, then you're going to, what are you going to do to the publishers who have already invested, put in money and time? Yes. But at the end of the day, the student is the most important person.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Milemba, a lot of this, Matiang'i came out and showed confidence that the teachers are well ready and they were properly trained. And earlier on, you mentioned that if some of them are not, so in the next 8 months, we'll just be on a roller coaster here.
He often shows false confidence, but somewhat walks away with it because the teachers are not ready. And, but I also like his enthusiasm because the determination to achieve. Very well, very well. When you want to achieve anything, I would do the same. But, you know, you also pray that systems are working behind. So the teachers were not ready for it. He himself was not ready. The publishers are not ready. And everybody's not ready. So, like I said earlier, a little while, and he has to also reduce the politics from education. I wish they could name the cabinet quickly so that we have just one minister for education. Education is a very sensitive sector. You can't go on the streets fighting the resisting people and come back and do education. It's not well, and it must be done so consistently, and you follow it very well because you're affecting the lives of the young minds, and how you produce them. That becomes our future, and that takes me even to the exams. I'm sorry, I keep on deviating a little. You want to mark exams. I used to mark, I stopped. But then you mark it very fast. And then you produce the results. Then you are saying you are having 10 centers which you are investigating. How I wish you could have just taken a little bit, one more week to investigate those centers and release your results, because already once you tag that center as being investigated, the public goes wild. That one cheated already. So
an audit is then...
Yeah, so you need to save the learner. And now this learner comes out as a person who is already being a suspect that he came through a system that stole exam. So it's good to take your time because you are dealing with minds. Education psychology is one thing we did in the university for a long time. And we learned it from year 1 to year 3. Other subjects you would only take a little while. So you do it carefully so that you don't affect the learner you are producing.
Mheshimiwa, you're for the school of thought for the auditing of those results?
No, don't use the word auditing. Auditing would be very, very dangerous for those who want to interpret it. I think results need to be, marking needs to be done well. And after they have been done well, moderation is the word I wanted. Yes, moderation should be done. You know, it's not a must that, and people want to fear to talk about this. Even people who are produced by the system of moderation, including Ombop Komilemba and yourself, depending on which year you did exams. Exams were moderated. Not every year students will get 93 and above. There's a year they'll get even 67. That's the first student you have to moderate those exams. That becomes the A. And examiners and chief examiners who are listening to me, they know how to do it very well so that 67 becomes the A, and we roll it down up to E. But when you just...
normal curve.
Normal curve. When you release results in a hurry, and because 67 should be a C+, also you say in English the first student had C+, you are wasting Kenyans. And how I wish you tell this country, where do you want to take those 40,000 E's? What shall be the end product after 5 years if we continue with this trend? We shall have more than 1 million young people who cannot join any college. This is a disaster. People have to sit down and see what to do.
Critics have argued that this is just trying to fit in. It's us trying to fit into the new system. Of course, at the beginning, there'll be a bit of restlessness.
There's no new system. Good to congratulate that the minister and Kenya National Examination Council have come down and have controlled cheating. Tick. And let them continue.
Right.
And nobody would want to talk against them. Hey, you fight hard to make sure that there's no cheating. But mark exams, moderate exams, and give us the results.
Right. Mheshimiwa, you sit at the parliament level, chairman at KUPPET. I want to hear your thoughts on the issue of early education, early children education. They do not have any unions representing them. What are your thoughts on this?
Early child education was a victim of constitutional making. Because when the WACO draft was made, I was still a leader at KUPPET, and education was devolved to the counties. But a combination of ourselves and KNUT combined and said, no, we cannot devolve the education system. So we fought to pull down or to vote down the constitution and demanded that we want one employer who was Teachers Service Commission, the way it has been. So when the new constitution came, they gave us Teachers Service Commission as one employer within the education system. But unfortunately, because there was a little bit too much clamor for devolution, they devolved the ECD sector. And that is why it is where it is. And it cannot be managed very well. It is suffering. If we went to roll in the new syllabus in a hurry today or tomorrow, it will suffer the same setback that ECD is suffering. Because the teachers, the systems will learn on the ropes. and it will take some time. Counties are now starting to accept, yes, we need to do something about ECD. But I'm happy to report that the ECD now has got its representatives in terms of the union. Okay. It's also trying to calm down and to galvanize itself. The ECD is mainstreamed. It's mainstreamed in the constitution. The new syllabus, well rolled out, gives it strength because that's the first two. So I think we have a big future for the ECD.
So it will sort of now start shaping up and looking a bit more positive on that note.
But remember how long we have wasted.
True.
Yeah, yes. Because we hurriedly.
Right.
Yeah.
And now the TSC is employing the ECD teachers.
Very well, it's registered.
Before that, it was the counties that were employing them.
And they could not do that. And we were asking counties to do ECD teachers when the Teacher Service Commission is here and has every mechanism to register every teacher in this country.
Right. Mheshimiwa, earlier on with Agatha, we also touched on the issues of cartels and how Matiang'i has fought that out. He has been praised on some aspects, and on other aspects, people are still saying you need to involve the stakeholders a little bit more. Your thoughts on that?
But also just using the word cartels. Cartels for what? You know, you take a group of people and quickly brand them cartels. So which cartels were you discussing?
The cartels, yes. I'm sure we're talking about
the whole cheating?
The exam, cheating, okay. Yes. And then we also want to talk about the ones that work with booksellers to actually, the
middleman, which marks up the prices, Mheshimiwa.
The brokers.
The brokers. Books are supposedly bought, but not quite delivered to schools.
Those are not cartels. Those are individuals who can be reined down.
Yes. So he's tamed them. He's tamed them. We've seen him tame them.
Because who purchases the books? And who is supposed to deliver them? Those tenderpreneurs can be reined down. So that one I support him. Let him just go for them. Yes. Let him go for the people who would buy books. I hear they would be supplied at night and then removed the same night. Those are individuals who can actually be arraigned. So it is not correct that our books, and especially supplied by the government and taxpayers' money, should not reach the students. Those ones can be arraigned. The cartel I think I want to talk about was the cartel that was involved in the cheating of exams. That was a very serious cartel because that system involved very many people. It began with the Kenya National Examination Council itself.
So you would give him a tick on that?
100%.
All right.
Yeah, we are not here to criticize anybody for the sake of it, 100%.
I think the other thing why they want to fast-track the exams is to avoid time for them to influence, because apparently what would happen is, as they're processing the exams and all that, like you say, the cartels from within NEC, okay, then they'd be working. It used to be called, we'd call it cleaning the system. So I'm able to control, so how many A's does my school have? So can you do this? Can you clean? That cleaning, they call it cleaning.
So can he take care of that? Can he take care of that so that immediately after marking, we have the moderation process? And he insists that during that particular period, only specific people are involved, if they're chief examiners, deputy chief examiners, and others, and they don't break. Yes. Because I remember in the old system, they would break, go away, then they'll come back. Am I correct?
Yes.
To do the moderation. Let them just sit there, do the moderation, and give results as they are.
Yes.
All right.
So you can see that's why we need stakeholders' involvement.
Right.
Already that's a very good proposal. All
right. Mheshimiwa, let us release our KTN home viewers. My Life and Style is about to start right now, but this conversation is still continuing on KTN News. So if you're still following it up, change your channel and come to KTN News for this conversation. It's still continuing right here. All right, Mheshimiwa, I cut you short a little bit there, but you were speaking on that issue of congratulating Matiang'i on that, and the aspect that window gap sort of closes the time period to allow any cheating to happen.
Yeah, I was supporting the idea that if the period within which the end of the marking and the moderation was the window that the cartels, now I can use the word cartels, the people from the Kenya National Examination Council and other leaders in schools would now collaborate to change exams for the bad or for cheating purposes, then he should just go for that particular aspect. That yes, we have now stopped a leakage of papers on the streets. 100%, he was able to do that, and I want to congratulate him. Then he's now dealing with opening of exams slightly earlier. And I saw the chairman of the Kenya National Examination Council addressed that. That's the new form of cheating that wanted to emanate. Now, do away with that, and then now go for this period of moderation. Are we retaining the chief examiners and those who are in charge for this process for a little bit of time? And it used just to take about 2 weeks or even 1 week. So they moderate and release the results to Kenyans. So what we are having now are very fake results. They are wrong results. They are wrong. The students have been failed for no proper reason because we hurriedly released the results to avoid moderation, to avoid the curtails. So the curtails,
go on. The
curtails have affected the Kenyan learners. Because of the fear of the curtails, now we have failed students in mass. We needed to go and again just arrest the issue of that curtails actions during the moderating period, so that we don't fail students because we are running away from the curtails. And that takes me back to the policy you began with. We have completely affected the traveling of students to school, and it will take a little bit while, simply because when we realized we were unable to manage the road carnage, we banned night travel. Suppose we have another accident today, then we shall ban day travel. And then soon we shall ban travel.
Mheshimiwa, your thoughts on, I'm glad you talked about even the students and how this system is sort of letting them down. In a country with an 89% failure rate, what happens to those students then who cannot be admitted to university, Agatha? What's the way forward?
I think I wouldn't want to call those students failures.
But that's fail, Agatha.
That is... Yes, I'll say, yeah, they're not going to university, but it doesn't completely knock
satellite campuses have also been closed, and what's the way forward?
But the idea is you can go through your diploma, because personally, I've known very successful people who started out as diplomas. I know professors who started out as certificates. Yes, they started out as certificate and slowly went. So it's just that they're going to take a longer process. But when we refer to them as failures now, you know, we are already adding salt into the injury that has been created. Already they've been branded failures. These are young. Some of them are not 18 yet, okay, and you're being branded a failure. So really we need to now deal with them. What can we do with them?
Mheshimiwa, what can Parliament do?
Yes.
I want to deal with the word failure. Those students have been branded failures. Failed. And for some of them, they cannot go anywhere. And I want to explain why. I taught for 21 years before joining the union. E
is no certificate for an E.
Thank you very much. So let's count how many E's are there. Totally failed, totally going nowhere, cannot do anything. These ones are guys who should have never even been in school in the first place.
They should not have gone to high school. They should, and that's where the new curriculum will take care of.
So then that takes care of your question. Where do we take these people? By the time teachers brand somebody E, we would look at it so critically because we know what it means to give this person an E. You don't just come before the front of cameras like I'm doing and then say, 30,000, I've got E, and you walk away proudly.
Right.
No, 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 you are killing humanity. That's why moderation is important. Marking must be done very well. And because we are building a nation, we are not showcasing for ourselves in terms of how much we can do as individuals when we are in certain positions, including myself. If I ever doing that, I want to ask God to also forgive me. You are building a nation, you are building human resource for Kenya. So that's why those exams needs to be audited, and we know who exactly has failed.
Right.
There used to be paths, and I think that's what Madam Agatha has referred to. With time, I've now known her name. There used to be paths, several pathways. Yes. So she's now talking about the alternative pathways to rise up.
Right.
Because several parents were calling me up to yesterday. One called me and was asking me, now, I want you to advise me. My son got D-. Where can we take her? Do we go for repeating? I think another alternative would be to create the pathway so that this child goes for certificate. From certificate goes for diploma. From diploma goes for degree. From degree goes to master's, and he gets that pathway. It's a longer pathway, but it still works. Unfortunately, then, the so-called failures are too many. So it will shift.
We have enough.
It will shift the scramble for avenues in the middle-level colleges.
Right.
Exactly.
And that is where
do they even
now,
have the capacity to hold such numbers?
So those are the questions. So the shift goes to the middle-level colleges, which should absorb these people for these extra pathways. Because also the way the system is, there's no repeating. So nobody
Many
can.
of them
Yes.
were turned into university campuses.
There you go.
Yes, because, you know, we had the polytechnic that would have taken them. Now it's a university. So really, we need to think
Another
lower.
paradigm shift from
Yes.
universities to middle-level colleges. And in so doing, again, we have to close down the universities. They are no longer
Some of
necessary.
them.
Because,
There are too many.
yes, where will they get
Too many
students when
satellites.
people have failed? And there are certain basic pass marks you require to go to university.
So now what we need to do is then strengthen the middle classes.
The middle-level colleges.
And that is why you need all stakeholders to be involved in this discussion, so that you are doing it in a way that you are also not affecting the economy drastically. Are you seeing that? The universities are not closing and sacking all their
Sacking
employees.
teachers, yes.
Yes.
And the middle-level colleges are not being given staff they cannot absorb. Hear you. When we talk about consultation, which some people in the government, including Matiang'i, he doesn't like consultation completely. He wants to do it his way and walk away. But if we go like that, you get yourself sometimes entangled in more serious problems. You bring these guys together, even the ones who are affected adversely, and you discuss them on how you can roll
He
out.
needs to bring in more stakeholders at the
I
table.
have been checking your paper now. There's a meeting today.
Yes,
Oh, yes,
it's
there's
actually
some
on the
Too little,
standard.
too late.
Yes,
going there.
Yes, too
it's
little.
the first story on our standard
Too
newspaper.
little, too late. For how long have the unions demanding for
We've
this
been asking
meeting?
for that.
But the thing also, as I'm heading to that page, Kupet and Nat have said if they do not sit in that meeting, we'll call for strikes.
You're going.
No, strikes have a very serious processes. I don't want you to scare Kenyans with strikes.
Because,
here.
Meshimiwa, we can't keep going to strikes every single
I'm the
time
national
Kupet and
chairman
Nat don't
of
agree.
Kupet, and I want to correct that. These days,
There's no strike.
I don't mince my words. Nobody has called a strike. If a strike is called, there's a process of calling a strike, and I would call my National Governing Council. It would deliberate. I would call NC to deliberate, NEB to deliberate.
What if there's just threats?
There's no strike, so there's no any threat.
Just
I think
scaring,
I
that's
think
the
the
word.
writer was wrong. It was because I should have been told if there was any strike. How can teachers go on strike and I
Right.
don't know? So there's no any strike.
All right, so it's on page 10 of the Standard this morning. That's actually one of the biggest stories. Uncertainty over the new system of education in Cabinet Matiang'i, who will be meeting teachers' unions ahead of tomorrow's make or break meeting. Right? Very quickly, Meshima, your thoughts on also the issue of principals and deputies having to be transferred. Others are happy, others have already made their transfer. This was also a tug of war.
Unfortunately, when we make certain, especially from the union side, not as a member of parliament, from the union side, we make some advice, it becomes difficult for the authorities to take them. And sometimes, again, we have been branded as just being antagonistic. But that's not the case. The transfers of principals will have several side effects. And the agreement we have the employer, now you have shifted to Teacher Service Commission. We are no longer in the ministry because those transfers are affected by TSC, specifically this Teacher Service Commission. We have a CBA with Teacher Service Commission, and where we agree that a teacher can work anywhere in this country. So tick. They can transfer the principals anywhere.
Yes.
But on terms of policy, in the CBA, we also agree that we shall be consulting whenever we want to bring in a new policy.
All right, okay.
So we needed to have consulted the stakeholders and see how do we carry it out. Now let's look at this, a quick one. We stayed with the teachers from Northeastern here in town for a very long time. Some of them were camped at our offices. First NAT, then they came to our offices. Then when we could not have enough food, and let Kenyans listen to this, they camped at the TSC for about 4 months.
Oh, yes.
Most of those teachers remain sacked, and we don't know where they are because the Teacher Service Commission finally dealt with them very haphazardly. And some of them have gone back, others have not gone back to work. But whichever way, who has lost? The students in the Northeastern regions lost completely because they had been employed to work there, but unfortunately they could not go back there. How we had wished that we start training a little bit more teachers from that particular area so that teachers from that particular region are able to teach in that particular region. Because it has become slightly very difficult for teachers from upcountry to teach there. These are issues, and I don't want to indulge into that. But it has become impossible. Some of them just give up and go away. So then now we have also finished the politics of the time. And then you quickly come in without trying to also listen to the views of the teachers. And now you're saying you are randomly transferring teachers. And me, I'll call a spade a spade. So you are taking this teacher from Muranga, and you are taking him to Bondo. Or Bondo to Muranga. You know, you are not in business. Yes. You are not in business. Whether you want to tame me as a leader of the union who is not building national cohesion. National cohesion is one of the goals in the curriculum, and is among the goals. And the system of building it is very clearly defined through the education system, and we need to target the learners. But after just this crisis of politics, and then you are doing those transfers, among other things, we need to work for ourselves. Now, let me leave that one. Schools are basically community-owned.
Right.
Schools were owned by churches. Churches gave schools to government. Government somewhat surrendered a very good portion of the ownership of schools to communities. So the communities have a very serious say in schools, and that's why you will hear one time they have closed a headmaster out. Haven't you heard of that?
It has happened.
Yes, we are going to have incidents in this country, and we shall just suffer our own decision making. So I cannot fault the Teacher Service Commission for having done its work, but it has to do its work well within
the right capacity.
The capacity and the environment within which we are living.
Okay. Agatha, would you want to add on top of that?
I think I already shared that, and he's just echoed my sentiments. Okay, because I mean the TSC has the mandate, but at the end of the day, it is your choice. Because now, when I feel that this environment is too hostile for me, then either I say, okay, I'll forfeit my position. Okay, I can forfeit that. I can say, let me go back to class. I don't have to be a principal. So I know of individuals who've had to do that. Okay, so for those who have opted to resign, okay, early retirement, and like you're talking about these principals, many of them, I mean, they're in their 50s, people who have
about to retire,
people who have invested mostly wherever they are living. So those are the choices some of them have to make.
Mheshimiwa Mulemba will be seated in that meeting.
Madam, can you also assist to reinforce the policy, the general policy we have been having because of the AIDS pandemic? You know, when we were in school, teachers were not in their areas.
Yes.
We reverted to this policy of teachers being near their homes because of the circumstances within which we were living. First, the schools were not having houses.
For teachers.
For teachers. So the commission, I think it was during Ongwae's time, found it, Ongwae is now governor of Kisii, found it necessary that let's bring these people closer home, so that we don't have the issue of houses and houses and houses. And again, there was a lot of thuggery. We lost so many teachers in the late 70s and 80s, courtesy of thuggery. You know, they would be looked upon as foreigners. And thugs would attack them and kill them in schools. So that's why we went to this policy where somebody works near, especially the primary school teachers. So they work near home. And then quickly, AIDS was declared a national disaster by Moi. And also the teaching fraternity, we were affected. And it became good that people work near their homes, stay with their families, and so on and so forth. And that has worked very well for the Teacher Service Commission. So now, again, we are sending these guys away, so we are creating another atmosphere that is going against that general policy of taking care of AIDS and so on and so forth.
It's disrupting the system that was placed close to 20 years ago.
So I think all these things should have been considered. I don't know why it was so important to make such a decision in such a hurry, and it will affect families so adversely. I want to call upon the Teacher Service Commission.
557 have already moved.
Yeah, you know, those are workers, and workers must respect and
your employer.
The employer. And Teacher Service Commission used to be my employer. I heard the other day they are still saying I'm employed there, but I respect them still to date as my employer. If they were to give me a letter after leaving politics, and I suppose I was still there, you know, you have to go where they have posted you. So those principles have gone because they have done well. But it does not mean having gone, their plight should not be listened to.
Yes.
So I want to thank even the principals who went, but this is a matter we can still call upon the Teacher Service Commission to follow up.
Right. I gather Mr. Milemba here, Mr. Milemba will be seated in that meeting.
Yes.
What are your expectations? What would you want him to go represent and tell Matiang'i?
First, I'd like him to thank you for the cutting off the cartels in the exams. I teach in a school that does well, Alliance Girls.
Oh, very well.
Yes, and we are really seeing the fruits of that, because in the past we were always crying. We always cried. When results came out, we cried because we worked so hard and we never saw the results. But this time we have the results and we appreciate that. And then I think he needs to listen to every one of us. Consider, put the child at the center of everything. What is the child gaining? What's there for the child in this? And I think politics aside from schools.
Okay.
Yes.
And for you, Mheshimiwa Milemba, what would you want that meeting to succeed? Your expectations of that meeting that is going to happen, that you will be seated in?
If I have a chance, I'll do exactly what Madam has said, because you notice we were losing our principal schools. They looked like they were not performing. But they were just not performing because they were being camouflaged by these cartels that were stealing exams. And that's why maybe even if you look at the primary, the public schools are starting to come back. They're back. It's because equal playing level is being created.
Right.
So we want to thank Matiang'i for that and let him continue doing that together with Magoha, because they are doing a good job there. We shall also tell him that he needs to listen to other stakeholders. But for me, I would want him to look at the education sector very, very carefully, very, very sentimentally, and with the child at the heart of it all.
Right.
So that every decision we make it very, very delicately to know that we are creating this child into a person. They do say that apart from God, the only other people who have been given a chance to do makeshift or quasi-creation are teachers. So let him get that spirit of quasi-creation of human mind moving forward, so that we stay away from politics, stay away from, I also stay away from extreme unionism, and we just focus on the child per se.
That's the goal for 2018.
Yeah, that's what's good for the child. All
right. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much. Mheshimiwa Omboko Milemba, Member of Parliament from Emuhuyu, as well as Mhaya. Yes. Emuhaya, as well as Agatha Nagila, who is a teacher at Alliance Girls High School. Thank you so much for helping drive this conversation this morning. Our schools are going ahead and about to reopen. We want to take a quick commercial break here on Money Express, but we still have a lot more. Stay with us.